friends, insane persons. My name is Kyle, and this is another episode of Wednesday Whimsy. Wednesday Whimsy is a short show that I do every Wednesday evening where I talk about a board game topic, a top 10 list, or something else kind of related to those things that happen to catch my mind. Anyway, so today is my 50th episode of Wednesday Whimsy. I'm kind of excited about that, and I thought a good way to celebrate 50 episodes in would be to talk about the games I have played the most. This is not necessarily the games I like the most, although many of them are games I like a lot. In fact, all of them are. And I'm just going to give you the list of games in the order of the amount of times I have played them. Now, this is kind of all time. Now, some of them are newer, so it won't matter. But, if I talk about a game that's been around since 2009, I will have played it a lot more than a game that came out last week. Very likely, at least. Anyway, so I guess that's just going to be what I do. I'm not going to talk about the games in too great detail. I will a little bit, of course. But it's generally just going to be a rundown of the games that I play the most. Now, I do record my plays with an app. This app is called BG Stats. I'm going to use it to sort of help me get there to figure it out. It will keep track of every game I have recorded. Now, I have not been recording games as long as I've been playing them, though, and especially some older games, the stats will be a little bit skewed, so I might not go into the details. But I guess with that in mind, let's go ahead and get started with my number 10 most played game. So my number 10 most played game is a fairly popular game, one I enjoy quite a lot. It made a big splash when it came out, and that game is Scythe. According to the app, I have played Scythe. Oh no, I accidentally closed the app. According to the app, I have played Scythe 173 times. And that's, of course, since it came out, because I think I've been recording since it did. Scythe is, of course, a game where you're kind of building up your abilities and you're trying to go out and achieve certain goals. It had a lot of expansions. It's grown a lot, and it's grown on a lot of people. I've definitely enjoyed it. I have played it with lots of different people, lots of different player counts, and although I've not played it with 7 yet, and I probably never will, I really do enjoy Scythe. So with that, let's move on to my number 9. All right, my number 9, you know what, I can probably show pictures of these. Why not? Let me load that feature up here. I probably could have thought of that before I started. But we're going to go over to share the screen. I don't know why this is always so hard for me. Share screen, and we open it up. So my number 9 used to be my very favorite game. For a little while it was. And it is a game that I don't get to play nearly as much now as I did back then. According to I guess I can show you the name. The name is Twilight Struggle. Twilight Struggle is, of course, a game that I rate a 10 out of 10. I've talked about it before. And it's a game about the Cold War. It's kind of ugly, kind of heavy, kind of difficult to get into. According to the app, I have played it 174 times, so 1 time more than Scythe. I suspect that number might be off by about 20 games or so, though, because, I honestly don't know. I'm going to go with the app's number, but there's a couple that probably, because this one's been around since 2005, and I know I've played it a few times more than I've recorded. Anyway, according to the numbers, though, that's what we've got. So in the game, you are, of course, the USA or the Soviet Union, and you are vying for control over various regions of the board. It's a game where history jumps off the page, and you can learn a lot and have a great experience. It's also a game where you can just have real, very thick, amazing tension for the whole play. It's not a surprise that I have played it a lot of times because I obviously very much enjoy it. But there you go. My number 9 most played game, Twilight Struggle. with that, let's move on to my number 8. Number 8 is definitely the lightest game on this, and it might be a little inflated just because I think I've lumped several of the iterations of this game that are all kind of the same together. But my number 8 game is a little dice game that sort of started this renewed interest in roll and writes, and that is Ganz schön clever. So this game, you basically you've got this little sheet that you're filling out, and you are making. Yeah, you see those dice just sparkle and jump off the board, but you're basically filling out the sheet. You're going to roll the dice. You're going to select one, and you're going to mark off some sort of item that it gives you. And then each of the different 5 colors is going to score in a slightly different way. And you can also get bonuses where you're going to score your least scored zone again. And it's really all about trying to make these combinations and make something give you something else, give you something else, give you something else. I remember I got this right before Eurovision in Portugal, I believe. So that would have been 2018, which is when it came out. And I got it, I took it with me, and I just played and played and played and played. I introduced everybody I could to it. It was just really the hot game of that particular period. It has since come out with 3 follow-ups, the second, third, and fourth, and then there are also bonus challenge maps. There are sheets that you can use. So I've definitely played it a lot of times in various iterations. According to the app, I have played it 181 times, but again, that could be split between the different iterations of the game, but they're all more or less the same. There's not really a big difference other than that different things will score slightly differently in the various iterations. So anyway, that's my number 8 most played game, Ganz schön clever. Let's move on now to my number 7. All right, my number 7 is a game that I know I have played a lot, but I have played this game not exclusively, but a great lot of times solo, and that game is Aeon's End. Now, just like Ganz schön clever, this is a game where I have played all. I'm lumping all of its expansions. I don't keep track of it by its expansions because I just mix and match. Aeon's End is a cooperative deck building game. It was not the first one, but it's definitely one of the stronger ones where you and your fellow wizards or mages, breach mages, are trying to take on a big bad monster and whittle its health down to 0 before it destroys you. You're going to do so by buying cards, putting them into your deck, and then you're not shuffling your deck. That's kind of the hook of this game. So you can ideally try and plan out combos if you're able to think that far ahead. And ultimately, you're trying to do as much damage as possible to this monster while also thwarting its attempts to damage you. There's several different iterations of this. There have been 2 legacy sets. There have been several sort of standalone expansions. There have been some just only expansions. There's a lot of content for this game. Almost too much, I might say. It does not fit in any kind of storage system in any reasonable way. And there's probably too many market cards in the game. It's kind of a pain to set up a market. The different bad guys, however, actually even the heroes have come a long way and gotten much more interesting over time. So I'm really glad that I have this one, and it's one that I have not grown tired of. Although I will say the last expansion, the second legacy, was kind of a disappointment. So I'm kind of thinking maybe it might be almost done, although I did just get another expansion for it, so who knows. Anyway, number 7, Aeon's End, 195 times I have played it, and probably going to be several more. Let's go on to my number 6. I said number 6. All right, my number 6 is a game I know I've talked about on here, and I've played with several different people. I've played it in 2 iterations because there's an older version and a newer version, but that game is called Through the Ages. Um, I no longer have the version 1.0. I have the new story now, the one that came out in 2015, but I have combined all of my plays together because the differences between those 2 different games, as it were, are almost non existent. They're really the same. So through the Ages is a game where you are taking some sort of civilization and building it up over the course of the several rounds of the game. You're upgrading your income production. You're upgrading the way that you can make and store resources. You're doing a lot of manipulation of components and cards, and ultimately you're trying to have the most successful civilization at the end. That's kind of it. Now, the 2 versions that I have played are combined a total of 225 times. It is a very long game. I will say that almost of the 225 games, I have probably played 215 of them at 2 players, because it's a little bit too long to play with more than 2, unless you like that kind of thing. Anyway, it's a game that I really enjoy. I've enjoyed for a long time. Not surprised to see it this high up. It's also older, even though I said this one, the second edition came out in 2015. The prior version, I think, came out around 2009, or sometime around then. So it's definitely had some time to build up that number of plays. Not a surprise here. Move on now to my number. I should be able to count. My number 5. So my number 5 was a little bit of a surprise to me. I do play it a lot, and I often play it 3, 4, 5 games in a row. So that's how it quickly built up. And that game is the 2-player abstract game Santorini. So Santorini, there's a new version coming out. It looks like it was released in 2016. It is a lightly themed around ancient Greek mythology, very lightly themed, abstract game where what you're trying to do is build a tower and climb on top of it. And what really sort of makes the game is, one, the components look very nice. It has this nice 3D look to it, but also each player will have access to a special ability that really can change the game fundamentally. And so you're trying, to create situations where you can prevent your opponent from interfering with you. You're trying to maximize your special ability, and ultimately your goal is to get to the top of one of these towers. So, very simple game. I mean, plays of this will last 5 to 10 minutes. Usually, it's not long at all. The app says I have played it 245 times. And again, I would suspect I have played it exclusively at 2-player. You can play it with 3 and 4, but I won't do that. I read the rules and they sounded terrible. And so it's a 2-player game, but it's the kind of 2-player game where you will set it up, play it, play it, play it, play it. And in one evening of Santorini, I will have played it 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So I'm not surprised to see that I've played it as much as I have. That's actually kind of I guess as an aside, an interesting feature of logging your plays is you realize how much you play certain things. So anyway, let's move on from my number 5 to my number 4, and none of the rest of these is going to be a surprise. So my number 4 is a game that is one of my favorite solo games, one of my favorite travel games, and it is a game I've talked about before on many occasions across various discussions, and that game is One Deck Dungeon. I think I did an episode of Wednesday Whimsy on One Deck Galaxy, but this is the original Dungeon version. In fact, that same trip to Portugal where I took Gone Shown Clever, I know I also took One Deck Dungeon and played it a ton too when my friends were not around. So anyway, One Deck Dungeon is a game where you are a character and you're going through, a dungeon, and it's made of a deck of cards, and you're using those cards as the monsters you're fighting, as sort of this resource of time you're paying, and as various special abilities that you can get and upgrades that you can get for your character to make yourself stronger. The artwork, not great. the original game design had some or rules had some issues, but once you get through them, it's really quite enjoyable. You'll fight different monsters, and you're sort of trying to get certain die faces in the spots. And if you succeed, you get a bonus. If not, you pay a penalty. It can be very random and very brutal at times, but it's not long to play. It's a very light and small box, so it's one that can easily travel with you. And many of its plays have been not at home. The app here says that I have played One Deck Dungeon 264 times. Let's move on to my number 4. That was number 4. Let's actually move on to my number 3. I wish I could learn to count. All right, my number 3 will be a surprise to none. I've done 2 episodes of Whimsy about it. It is a fantastic solo game and a great cooperative game, especially at 2, and that game is Spirit Island. So Spirit Island, we won't dwell on it here because we've talked about it a lot, but it came out in 2017, and it has grown in popularity over time. I think when it initially came out, it was kind of a hard sell because it's such a heady cooperative game. What you're doing in Spirit Island is you're a nature spirit. You're trying to drive off the invaders who are probably from Europe, or specifically from Europe if you add some of the various modules, and you're using a variety of special abilities and powers to do so. I have played this game 271 times. Is that right? Yes, 271 times. And across all of its expansions and iterations. And I know that what I will do from time to time, especially when I have, a long period with stuff to listen to, I will set it up and I will play through every single spirit. Just solo, play through a spirit, play through a spirit, play through a spirit, and see how I'm doing and sort of keep all the other parameters the same. I enjoy doing that. It's a great way to kind of experience and learn the game. So I am confident that I'm not surprised, I guess, to see that I have played it that much. 271 times, and probably, I could easily see this going up to 300 or 350 in the next year because I'm sure I'll have another couple of Spirit Island marathon days. Anyway, that's my number 3. Let's move on to my number 2. Now, my number 2 is Sentinels of the Multiverse, a game that I talk about a lot. And this is specifically version 1. I don't think I have lumped in the new version together here. I might have. Honestly, I don't know. But this game came out in 2011. It was the first version is kind of rough, but it's been sort of redone, and now it's in its second iteration now. But basically, it's a superhero game. You have superheroes that you're taking up against a cast of baddies, and you're trying to bring down a villain and stop the villain's nefarious schemes. It's all done with cards. You have cards with various special abilities. Each hero has its own deck that's going to be very different and play differently than all the other heroes. Over time, there have been lots of expansions. In fact, the box for it now is just this huge cube. There's even this epic Oblivion way to play, which is fantastic and can be just quite this amazing experience as you're going through and trying to stave off this cosmic threat. Lots of people playing this game anyway. I'll turn that off because it's distracting. But, the app says that I have played Sentinels of the Multiverse 1,546 times. All solo. I will say that and many of those, to be fair, were probably on the app that came out for it, because that tracks all of the math and sort of the record keeping, because this game can be a record keeping beast with all these things to keep track of and interactions and steps. I've played it a lot on the table too, though, so I'm not sure what number of plays is on which platform, but I will say that a lot of it has been solo. I will take a team of 3 heroes and just play them, and I will play again like Spirit Island. I will set up, maybe one team of heroes, and then play through all of the villains, and then I'll play through all of the villains on their challenge modes. Anyway, a game I've played a lot and will continue to play, and I'm looking forward to the new stuff because there's new stuff coming out even now. Anyway, that's my number 2, Sentinels of the Multiverse. Let's move on to my not very surprising. So my number 1 is a surprise to no one, but that is Summoner Wars. So Summoner Wars I do not have a valid statistic for. Because I played it for years. I've played this thing since 2009. I've played it, multiple times a week since 2009. I've played version 1, I've played early version, I've played version 2.0, and I kind of, at least initially, I lumped 1 and 2 together. But, I know I had played many times before I even started recording the plays. So I do not have an accurate number. According to this app, it looks like it's about 1,600 plays, but I know that there's probably another 1,000 or 2 that I played before I even started using this app. Summoner Wars is a game that I literally am always playing. It's a game I just adore, a game I have always just adored. It's whether it's and I maybe I'll do this sometime. I'll talk about my thoughts on 1.0 and 2.0. But I played it back when it looked like this, and it was an ugly paper mat with low quality cards. But it's just such a fascinating game of tactical movement and combat. It's a game I will always be in the mood for, and I am not surprised. Look, I knew coming in this would be my number 1 game. Even without the benefit of those older stats that aren't recorded, I've played it way too many times. I've definitely got my money's worth out of this game. Anyway, also exclusively 2-player because it's a 2-player game. I guess once I played it 3 and 4-player, but that's not the way to do it. Anyway, that's kind of it, and we've gone long, and that's okay. But those are my most played games of all time as of today, which is April 5th, 2023. I don't know that anything is going to move the top 2. They're so much higher above all the rest of the games combined. But I'm confident that some other games that I like a lot are going to come up, and games that play well solo tend to be played more because I always have someone to play those with. But even games like Summoner Wars that don't work solo at all can be really rewarding and are the kind of thing that I'll just keep coming back to. Anyway, that was kind of an introspective episode of Wednesday Whimsy. Not, anything special or unique, just kind of thinking about the things that I enjoy playing and that I've played a lot of. And with that, I'm going to end this here. I look forward to another 50 episodes, hopefully. I don't think we'll do a stats episode again as number 100, but who knows? Anyway, with that, I'm going to say goodnight. I will wish you safe travels and courage when you need it, and I will see you hopefully back again soon on another episode of Wednesday Whimsy. Bye-bye.